Hey everybody, Mr. Seward. I'm going to continue on with our Onshape lessons about how to use the software anyways. And today we're going to draw one of these. This is of course a coffee cup, as I'm sure you all know what they are. And it's got some interesting features here. We'll use a sweep and we'll use some offsets and stuff like that. I'll show you the one that I've drawn so far, and here it is. That's the one that I drew. So we're going to go from here with this, and of course I'm using a trusty ruler and all to go ahead and go forwards with measuring here. So first thing is I'm going to go to my Onshape. So start your Onshape up and then hit create. And this is a document, and I named this coffee cup before, so just to differentiate it, I'm going to call it coffee mug. You can name it coffee cup or coffee mug. Oop, 3 E's or 3 F's, that's no good. Alright, and I'll say OK. Now, just to make sure that I'm working in the right units, I'm going to click up here where I have those 3 little lines, and I'm going to click on workspace units. I'm going to make sure that it says inches here. If it says millimeters or centimeters or anything else, change it to inches, and then everything else should be okay. So we're going to go from there. Okay, so I'm going to start a sketch. I'm going to put it on this front plane right here. And I'm going to right click and say view normal, and now I can see this. And I'm going to begin with a circle right from our origin point, come out. I'm just going to click, and then I'm going to put in a dimension of 3.00 and hit enter. Okay, so now I've got that all set. I'm going to go and green check mark that, and I'm going to view this isometrically. I'm going to extrude, and the depth here on the extrude is going to be 4 inches. And I'm going to click on this as the thing that I want to extrude, and I'm going to hit the green check mark. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off these work planes, and don't forget you can just put your cursor on here and hit the little eyeball thing, and that shuts them off. Now, bottom of my coffee mug has on it, let's see if I can show it to you. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it has like a little indent here. So we're going to have to do that to our coffee mug. So back to this, I'm going to start a sketch plane. I'm going to put it right here on the bottom. Right click and say normal 2. Alright, now this is the part where we're going to use the offset tool, and the offset tool is right here. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to use, let me see, I'll have to find it here, hold on a sec. So I'm going to do what in Inventor they call project geometry, but here in this software they call it use. So I'm going to click on this, and I'll click on that surface. What that did is that put that solid line on there for me, and I will now use the offset tool. I'm going to click on this thing, and the arrow's pointing to the outside, but I want to go to the inside, and the distance that I want to go in is 0.125 inches. Alright, and I will green check mark that, and I can take a look at this isometrically now. And what I want to do is I'm going to do an extrude. This is going to be a remove. Now the faces that I want to remove is that right there, and this is going the wrong way, so the depth is going to be 0.0625. I'll hit enter, and that should be good. Let's see what happens here. Check mark. Whoops. Yeah, I did the wrong thing. So that's okay. That's a good opportunity to show you the undo command, right? There it is. So I know what I did. I got to hit extrude. This is a remove. The faces to remove is this inner circle here. and I'm going to go 0.0625 in and hit the green check mark. And there it is. Okay, so now on the bottom here, right here on this edge, I'm going to put a fillet. So I'm going to put in, start the fillet command, and the to fillet is going to be this. It's going to be 0.0625, and I'll hit enter and green check mark. And did it work? Yeah, I think it, no, maybe it did. Let's do that again. Fillet, entities to fillet. Yeah, maybe it did fillet. Hold on a sec. It didn't really look a lot different, but yeah, it did fillet. Now, I can change the size of this fillet, by the way, by doing this. I just double clicked where it said fillet 1. I'm going to put in a fillet of 0.125 and see how that looks. And green check mark. I kind of like that one better. So make the fillet on the bottom 0.125 on that inside edge, and I can verify that it's there just by putting my cursor on this. Okay, now what I want to do is I'm going to use my view cube thing to spin around here. And I'm going to put a sketch on the opposite end, and I'll right click and say view normal to. And again, I'm going to use this geometry right here, and I'm going to do an offset again. I'm going to click on this, and I'll flip the direction of the arrow because I'm going to flip it to the inside because this is going to be the cutout of the coffee part of the pot. And I'm going to change this to 0.1875 right here. And I'll hit enter. And then green check mark. Okay. Okay, I got to tell you, I really don't particularly like the way that this sketch just came out here. See, I've got these extra lines in here. So I got the offset. This is the offset line. I've got this inner line here, and I don't know where that came from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click here, and I'm just going to delete my sketch. So you may or may not need to do this. So I just deleted that sketch. I'll look at this isometrically again, and then I'll flip it around. And I'm going to do the sketch again. And instead of using the use tool for projecting the geometry, I'm not going to do that this time. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to offset, and I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to click the distance, and I'm going to put in 0.1875, and I'll hit the check mark up here, and now I've only got one line, so I'm in good shape now. Okay, back to my isometric, and I'll spin this around so that I can see it, because I'm going to do an extrude. I'm going to extrude this inner chunk right here. It's going to be remove, and the distance is going to be 3.75 this time. And then I'll hit the green check mark. Okay, that's way better. Okay, now taking a look at this, these edges are nice and sharp, so we're going to put a fillet on these. And I'm going to click this inside line here and this outside line, and I've got these things are saying this is in red, and the reason for that is because this fillet radius is too big. So don't forget that we did that offset of 0.1875, and I want this to be exactly half of 0.1875. So I put in for the fillet radius 0.8175 divided by 2. I hit enter, and now these are both black, and I'm going to check mark this. Now I'm going to right click and just spin this around with my mouse so that I can see the bottom of it, and I'm going to put a fillet on the bottom here, and again 0.2 is too big, so I'm going to put 0.0625 and green check mark, and that'll leave us with a little bit of a lip on the bottom. So that's good. And then I want to take a look into the very bottom of my cup, just like that. And I'm going to put another fillet in there, down in the very bottom edge where the side meets the bottom. And I'm going to put in a 0.0625 fillet down there also, green check mark. So that is what I got to do to get the cup nicely smoothed out. Okay, so I'm going to go back to, whoops, what happened there? I must have clicked on something wrong. I did. Isometric view, and we're going to start working on the handle now. I got to be honest with you, this orientation for the handle isn't terribly convenient. So I'm going to right click and just pull this around until I get to a view somewhat similar to this. Maybe a little more like that. There we go. Now I'm going to do in this software what's called a named view. So I'm going to click on this icon right here. I'm going to go and I'm going to select the word named view, and for lack of a better term, I'm just going to name this view up, and then I can just click and I should be able to access this view. If let's see, I'll spin this around a little bit, and did I save it right? Nope, I didn't. So let me redo that, and well, I figured out what my mistake was. Where it says new name, new view name, it has a little plus sign there. I had to hit the little plus sign. Okay, so now when I go to my list, and I'll exit out of this and we'll change our view. I'll just show you how this works. Click on this, go to name view. It has select a view, and I can hit up and it zips right around to that view. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to turn on one of these work planes, and I'm just putting my cursor on these on the menu on the left hand side, and it's got that one. That one could work. That one definitely won't. But just the way I got everything spun around here, this one definitely will work. So I'm going to turn on the visibility of that so we can see that now. So I've got, for me, I've got the top one on. You might use the right one. Depends on how your stuff is set up. Now we're going to do a work plane. So work plane is right here. I'm going to click on that work plane, and I'm going to pull this work plane towards me rather than away from me. So I'm going to flip this arrow. You want the arrow pointing towards you. And my offset distance is going to be half the diameter of the cup. And remember, the diameter of the cup was 3. So I'm just going to do the math in my head here. And that's going to be 1.5 plus I want it to be another 1/8 of an inch, which is 0.125. So I'm going to put in 1.5 plus 0.125, and that's going to equal 1.625. You can all do that math in your head easily, I'm sure, but I just wanted to show you that you can use formulas in this software like this, and I'm going to green check mark. Now I'll just bring this around and show you. What's happened here is now we have this new work plane offset from the edge of the cup. So let's go back to our named view. Named view, select, say up, and there it is. Okay, let's make life a little bit easier. We're going to get rid of that one plane that we don't need. We're just going to turn it off. Now I'm going to start a sketch, and I'm going to go to this plane right here, right click and say normal to. And what I want to do is I want to draw a slot on here. So I'm going to need to start with a line, and my line, I'm going to just draw it from left to right there. Hit escape. I'll zoom in on this so you can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to give this thing a dimension right here. I'm going to come from the origin to this endpoint right here, and I'm going to make that 0.25. And then the overall length of the slot I want, or this line anyways, I want to make 0.5. Okay, so that's the start of the slot command. Now I have to use the slot tool, and the slot tool is underneath offset here. I'm going to click on that, and I'll select the actual half-inch line that I just drew, and for this diameter right here, that number is going to become, I'll double click on that, it's going to be 0.1875. And I'll hit enter. Oops, didn't work. Why didn't it work? There we go. Now I'll hit enter. There we go. That time it worked. Okay. And measuring my cup, it looks like from the line right here to up here. Oops, I got to change to dimension tool. So from the line here to our origin point, that looks to be about 0.75. Okay. So that's the first slat. Now we're going to come down here to the bottom and we're going to draw another one. Pretty similar process, I guess is the best way to put it. So I'm going to start a line. I'm going to go from left to right, and I'll hit escape a couple times to get out of this tool. Now I'm going to do the use tool, which is right here, and I'm just going to project that bottom line. Now let's see how this will work for me, because sometimes this does and sometimes it doesn't. Alright, so I'm going to do a dimension, and I'm going to put my cursor on this line, and it's not doing what I'd like it to, which is show me the midpoint of this line. Typically I could do that. I'll click on the end of that and just search along here. It should turn into like a little square of the cursor, but it's not doing that. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. But I can just zoom out and click on the origin up here. And let's see, can I right click? It's not going to give me what I want. I don't want the vertical distance. I want the horizontal. There we go. I'll put it down there. And this is going to be that 0.25 again. And then I'll dimension the overall slot to 0.5. And I'll zoom back in down here now. Actually, I should be able to do this. I should be able to dimension from the center here to this bottom line, and that worked. I'm going to put in 0.75. Oops, I had it in the wrong spot. Let's do this. I'm going to X that out. I'll hit restore. Okay. I think it took me out of the sketch. Yes, it did. I'm going to change that distance down there to 0.5 rather than 0.75. Actually, this one I can delete. Oops. Delete. You know what? I'm just going to restart this. I'll pause this and redo this. Okay, so I've got that cleaned up. I had on this bottom slide, I just redo the line and dimensioned the 0.25 in relation to the origin. So you'll see that 0.25 dimensions down here. I made the line 0.5 inches long, and then I put the slot on it again. That's 0.1875. And then I dimensioned from the bottom line to the center of the slot up 0.75. Okay, now that I've got these two outlines here, I'm going to hit the green check mark, and I'm going to go to my named view here, and I'm going to go to up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the extrude tool, and I'm going to click on both of these slots, and it's pointing in the right direction for me. If it comes up pointing out this way for you, you want to flip it the opposite direction. And instead of blind, I'm going to say up to next, and I'm going to green check mark that. Then what I can do is I can turn off that plane that's right there. And what I've got now is I've got the platform for our next part of this, where we actually create the curved component of this cup. Alright, now it's handle time. So we're going to use the sweep tool, and to get set up for the sweep tool, I'm going to do a couple things. First of all, I'm going to activate the sketch that goes right there, and I'm going to put a sketch plane on that sketch, and I will right click and say view normal to. And I'm actually going to turn off the visibility of this sketch plane right here. Actually, that's what I want turned on, I think. All right. Okay. So now here's what I want to do. I am going to go over here to this little arrow next to the view cube, and I'm going to turn on the section view. And where it says section plane, I'll select the right plane, and now that just, I'll show you what it did to it actually. I'll give you a view of that. So that's what it did to it. It just cut it in half so that I can see it. I'll right click and I'll go view normal to, and I'll check mark that. Okay, now I'm going to use the use tool here, and I'm going to click on this line right here. I want to get, actually I had to back out. I had it for just a second there. There's a little dot that'll appear. Come on, you. Which is the middle of this part right here. Well, that's okay. I'll just go from that corner there down. So I'm going to start with the line command, and I'm going to go from that corner, and I'll go down to the corner down here. I forgot to project that one, so I'll go back to use. I'll get that little corner right there. Okay, now I can draw my line. So I'll start my line from one of those dots up to the other one, and I will green check mark that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the ellipse tool. So I need to be back in my sketch here. Actually, I exited out of it for some reason. I'm going to start the ellipse tool, and ellipse is underneath center point circle. So I'm going to hit ellipse, and I need to find the middle of this line, and I get a little box when I do that. And actually, you know what? I just realized I do have to go from the middle of one of these things up here line wise. So I'm going to have to redraw that. So I'm going to pause this and fix my mistake here, and then we'll come back. Okay, so I figured out what I did wrong. This time hopefully everything will work. So I'm going to activate that right hand sketch. So I'm cutting right down through the middle of my coffee mug. I'll put a sketch on here, and I'm going to right click and say view normal to, and I'll zoom in here. I'm going to get the use tool going, and when I put my cursor on here, I hope you can see it, there's a little round circle that appears on it right there and there, and that is exactly what I want. Now I'm going to draw my line from that circle there to that circle down there, and those are the exact center points of those oval shapes that we created earlier. Now, staying on this sketch, I'm going to go and I'm going to find my ellipse tool, and the ellipse tool is under center point circle. It's right here, and I'm going to put my cursor on here, and the first thing it wants is it wants the midpoint of this line. So I just move that down a little bit until I got a little box, and I'm going to click on that, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up and I'm going to click on one of those little dots that I just created with the line. Now this is the path that the handle is going to take, and frankly this is just what you like in terms of visuals. So I'm just going to pull that out until I get to where I think it looks good. Then I'll use the trim tool and I'll get rid of that, and I'll push escape once, and I'll right click on this, and actually what I just want to do is I'm just going to highlight it. Oops, come on, highlight. I'm going to hit delete and get rid of that line, and now I can green check mark my sketch. So now I think I got everything. Oh no, I don't have everything set up. I'm going to go back to my named views. Oops. Named views. And by the way, you can move this thing over here if you want, so that it gets a little bit easier to get to it. You don't have so much time. Okay, good. Now, right here on plane 1, what I'm going to do is I am going to do the use tool. So I'm going to start a sketch right on plane 1, and I got the use tool here, and this is what I want, is all of that. Now I should be all set up to do my sweep. So here we go. Here's the sweep tool. Faces and regions to sweep, that's this. The sweep path is that arc that I just created, and I hit the green check mark. And I can now go and find this plane. I want to actually turn that off. There he is. I'll turn that off. So now I'm going to take a look at my cup. It's pretty complete. Now we got to put some text on this cup. And we're going to use a tool called Wrap to do that. And we got to do some setup stuff first though. So I'm going to go to this right plane that cuts through my cup, and I'll just turn on its visibility for right now just to make it a little easier. And I'm going to go to plane, and I'll click on the right plane, and it's going to the left on mine. I want it to come to the front right here, and I want it to come a distance. I want to have it outside of the cup, so I'm going to put in 1.625 as the distance, and I'll hit the check mark, and now I've created that plane. Now I can turn off my right hand plane so that there's a little less confusion going on, and I'm going to put my sketch right on this right hand plane. I'll click right and say view normal to. Now I'm going to use the text tool right here, and I will do this. I just made a box from the lower left to the upper right. Default text is going to be your name, and I'm going to click right here where it says flip horizontal one time and green check mark, and my text is completely and totally vertical, but that's okay. I'm going to zoom in right here on this little line. That line I think is the center of my text box. I'm going to click in the sketch 7 box where it says show constraints, and you see a horizontal constraint come on here. I'm going to left click on that and press delete on my keyboard and get rid of it. Now I'll highlight that line that I just deleted that constraint from, and I'm going to click horizontal up here, and it disappeared, but it's actually right down here. Okay, now we're going to dimension this text in place, so I'm going to use this line right here. So I'll start my dimension tool, I'll click on that line, I'll click on the origin point, and I'm going to put in a dimension of 0, and then from the top of the text box to that line on the it's the bottom of the fillet, I'll click and I'll put in 0.75. So now my text is centered, and the last thing is this text is really huge right now, so what I need to do is change the size of that. So I'll put a dimension over here on the right hand side of 0.25. Okay, and I'll zoom in. So that's what that's going to look like, and I can check mark here, my green check mark. Now let's take a look at this from our up view, and you can see the text here on this plane. And I'm going to use the wrap tool. Now wrap is underneath transform, so I'm going to hit wrap, and where it says tools, I'm going to come out and I'm going to select my text, and then target is going to be this cylindrical surface right here, and you can see it wrap it onto the cup, and I click and turn that off, and then I will turn off plane number 2, and there is my coffee cup all done. So just like we did with the measuring spoon, what you will do is you'll put a snip of this showing me the handle and your text and the more or less the inside of the cup onto the document that's associated with the Google Classroom.